Tonight, tackle surging poverty in the country to stave off elements of instability. Human rights lawyer Femi Falana warns political elites at a symposium on the state of the economy by the Nigeria Labour Congress. Acting Inspector General of Police Kayode Egbetogun blames inadequate manpower as a limiting factor to effective industrialization, says the force needs at least 190,000 more boots on the ground. The federal government halts all arrangements on the proposed national carrier, Nigeria Air, as the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development Festus Keyamo tours airport facilities in Lagos.
On business news tonight, Nigeria Exchange Limited and Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry to partner on ways to encourage listings and enhance capacity development of both entities and the Nigerian economy.
On sports news tonight, Manchester City's Erling Haaland and Spain's World Cup winning star Ainata Bonate win the UEFA Men's and Women's Player of the Year awards for the 2022-2023 season at the ceremony in Monaco.
From Abuja, the nation's capital, to reflect emerging issues affecting Nigerians, the federal government announces plans to update the national protection policy.
And in international news from London, more than 70 people have died and more than 50 have been injured after a fire in South Africa's city of Johannesburg.
The recent string of military coups in Africa should be seen as a wake-up call to the ruling elite to tackle endemic poverty in Nigeria, which has been made worse by the petrol subsidy removal. Well, that's according to human rights lawyer Mr. Femi Falana, who links the coups to the level of poverty among citizens of those countries, while their government officials live in affluence. The senior advocate of Nigeria stated this at a symposium organized by the Nigeria Labour Congress in Abuja. Our correspondent, Stila Moyeni, has the details.
The Nigeria Labour Congress is leading this conversation on the state of the economy in its 2023 National Symposium. Human rights activist Mr. Femi Falana is leading the discourse, and he has some advice for the ruling elites, especially in view of the recent military coups across Africa.
And for here, please, Honorable Senator, please be careful. Discipline Senator, be careful. Don't provoke Nigerians to mutiny, please. Because some of the things going on there, and we're in trouble. Sir, 70 billion naira for palliatives for 469 people. And when we say no, they say no. It's for facelift of the National Assembly. No, sir. 3 years ago, 37 billion naira was the amount for facelift of the National Assembly. That contract has not been fully executed. There is no review of the contract, so you can't talk of 70 billion naira for facelift. Secondly, 40 billion naira to buy exotic car now for leadership of the National Assembly. It's not going to be allowed. The latest provocative news from the National Assembly is that 54 billion naira has been earmarked for constituency projects for 360 members of the House of Reps. It has come to 150 million per person. Under these austere conditions in town.
The panel conversation focused on the theme, which is the Nigerian economy and the crisis of survival, robbing the poor to pay the rich. One of the issues that comes to the fore is the impact of fuel subsidy removal.
You share 5 trucks of rice to a local government, they won't get one cup. If we accept the position of the Bureau of Statistics that we have 133 million Nigerians that are multidimensionally poor before the subsidy removal, and after the subsidy removal, the number must have increased or doubled. Those are the fringes became poor overnight. But even if we were to take it without argument, and you multiply 5 billion by 36 states and Abuja, you get about 185 billion. If you divide it by 133 million people that are multidimensionally poor, you won't get up to 1,500 naira. Is that a palliative? No. Comrades, on and on and on. And you take the palliative and give it to governors. Any money you give to governors is not meant for us.
Production has collapsed. We have become, as it were, because before SAR, we were in a situation in which light industry, basic consumer production, had taken roots. And we were growing to develop into areas in which we would have medium-scale industrialization, machine tools production, and all that. But all that vanished. Any government that did what the Tinubu government did, to suddenly raise the price of fuel by such a tumultuous amount without a plan, does not deserve to be called a government.
Well, the aggregate submission at this symposium of the Nigeria Labour Congress is that subsidy in itself is not a bad thing. However, how governments go about subsidy is what is key, bringing to the fore the fact that bigger economies like the United States of America subsidizes healthcare through the Affordable Care Act, and Germany has just voted hundreds of millions of euros to subsidize the use of energy by its citizens. Dele Omoyeni, Channels Television News.
A resolve to end terrorism in the country while leveraging collaborations with the United Nations and other countries formed the crux of multiple engagements at the Defense Headquarters, also in Abuja today. A part of that meeting was, part of it was a meeting between the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja, and the United Nations envoy on counter-terrorism, as well as defense advisors from different countries. Meanwhile, in a separate event, the Defense Headquarters confirmed the death of 39 terrorists and 156 arrests in the various counter-terrorism operations within the last 2 weeks. Our defense correspondent, Kayla Megwa, reports.
The calm morning breeze at the Defense Headquarters, Abuja, masks the high-level activities expected on this premises as Nigeria advances in its fight against insecurity. Beginning with a bi-weekly briefing, the Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba, gives updates on the progress made in Nigeria's counter-terrorism efforts within the last 2 weeks.
Troops in the course of operations neutralized 39 terrorists, arrested 157 of them. Troops also arrested 16 perpetrators of oil theft, while rescuing 109 kidnapped hostages.
Next, the Chief of Army Staff meets with the Under-Secretary General, United Nations Office for Counterterrorism, Mr. Vladimir Voronkov, who is visiting Nigeria for the second time. They agree that there is need for collaborations in Nigeria's counterterrorism efforts.
Many countries which are interested to have this successful experience of fighting terrorism of Nigeria on board. So I think United Nations could be and will be a very important tool in dissemination of these best experiences.
Then the Chief of Army Staff meets with defense advisors from around the world. Representatives from 27 countries are in attendance in this meeting, including Niger Republic, Chad, Mali, Burkina Faso, Russia, among others. The meeting is to discuss bilateral and multilateral issues and proffer proactive suggestions to address numerous security challenges.
I want to appreciate the interaction. I want to appreciate the understanding, the engagements that we've had in the past in the areas of training, the areas of operation, defense procurement, and I want to promise you that the Nigerian Army is disposed to continue engaging with your various countries.
This particular meeting with defense attachés from around the world is an icebreaker, according to the Chief of Army Staff. And we can see among some of the countries collecting souvenirs right there that many of them are countries that are being watched very carefully in the wake of coup d'etats in Africa, while the military has not made any stand on the coups happening, at least in Gabon recently. We have heard the Chief of Army Staff in previous occasions talk about the resolve of the Nigerian military to stand by, adhere to, and promote democratic principles in Nigeria. Meanwhile, counter-terrorism efforts continue, and the military is asking the Nigerian people to stand by them, give them the morale they need to be able to counter terrorism successfully in the country. From the Defense Headquarters in Abuja, Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
Well, staying with security, to effectively secure the country, the Nigeria Police Force will need an additional 190,000 personnel. Well, this is the position of the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, during a presentation to Senior Executive Course 45 at the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, Kuru, Plateau State. According to him, inadequate manpower in the police is also impacting effective policing of industrial sites, thereby making them vulnerable to criminal activities.
As the Nigerian government is planning and strategizing to industrialize the country, there is a need for the government to continue to increase the manpower strength of the NPF with a view to improving our presence in these areas. Though an annual recruitment effort is in place and has improved the number of personnel of the force significantly, this remains insufficient when compared to the 1 policeman to 400 citizens ratio recommended by the United Nations. As of now, the police-citizen ratio is 1 to 604. In view of the growing population, which the world population review 2023 puts at approximately 223,499,000. Therefore, the NPF requires additional 190,000 personnel to be at parity with the United Nations recommended ratio.
Away from security, the president has restated his commitment and support for a robust public-private sector partnership to grow the economy, saying that his administration's reforms are anchored on a strong adherence to accountability and transparency. President Bola Tinubu said this during a meeting with the board and management of the Nigeria Economic Summit Group, NESG, at the presidential villa. Correspondent Larry Lasisi has the report.
Members of the board and management of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group at the presidential villa for a courtesy call on President Bola Tinubu. Receiving them with the president are the vice president, the Minister of Finance, and the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, amongst other top government officials.
Your inauguration speech spoke to
the NESG chairman applauded the economic decisions taken so far by the president, such as the fuel subsidy removal and the foreign exchange rate harmonization. He affirmed the group's readiness to support the federal government's economic drive.
More importantly, they're also here to drive investments, be it domestic investment and, of course, international investment. A critical part of that will be tackling the issue of insecurity and, of course, tackling and it's hoping to improve our crude oil production.
President Tinubu, in his remarks, made clear the resolve of his administration to work with the private sector.
We believe in courage of more levels. And it can only be driven by a serious collaboration with the private sector and the public sector. Strong adherence to accountability and transparency in every way possible.
He also acknowledged the difficult situation the country is passing through and emphasized that firm steps must be taken to build a better future for the country.
The world is dynamic, the environment is dynamic as well. We are confronted with climate change and many other challenges. But here, somewhere, in the face of all this storm, in the eye of the storm, there is a quiet and peaceful corner for those who can search, patient, and be determined. We will find ours.
The president assured the group that all will be done to fully implement the 8 priority reform areas under the Renewed Hope agenda within the next 4 years for the benefit of the country. Lanre Lasese, Channels Television News.
In part 2, after the break, the People's Democratic Party fires back at the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike following an interview on Channels Television. Says Mr. Wike will not only be suspended, but may be expelled from the PDP. That's in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, coming to you live from Channels Television. Well, here's a reminder of our top stories. Tackle surging poverty in the country to stave off elements of instability. Human rights lawyer Femi Falana warns political elites at a symposium on the state of the economy by the Nigeria Labour Congress. Acting Inspector General of Police Kayode Egbeto complains inadequate manpower as limiting factor to effective industrialization, says the force needs at least 190,000 more boots on the ground. Federal government halts all arrangement on the proposed national carrier Nigerian Air to allow for an audit as the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development Festus Keyamo tours airport facilities in Lagos. Death toll rises to 74, with 50 others injured after a fire disaster in South Africa's Johannesburg. And to aviation now, the proposed national carrier Nigeria Air and other arrangements initiated by former Minister of Aviation Mr. Hadi Sirika have been put on hold. That's according to the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Mr. Festus Keyamo, who paid a working visit to the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos, his first since assuming duties as ministers. He also stated that from October the 1st, all international airlines operating from the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, that's MMIA, are to move to the airport's Terminal 2 to enable repair work on the old terminal building, which will be shut down.
This place is empty.
There are issues already on the ground before I came, concession and all of that. For now, I have suspended all of that until I brief Mr. President as to what is happening regarding all of those noises going on, including the issue of the Nigerian Air. I have given directive to suspend everything until I brief Mr. President fully. The duty I owe Mr. President is honesty. He brought me here for me to correctly advise him. So I'm looking at all the agreements and everything that was signed to correctly inform Mr. President. I owe my total loyalty to the Nigerian people to have the best of the services, aviation services, and to Mr. President. And that's what we are doing. So for now, the temporary arrangement we want to make is that for the comfort of Nigerians, we have to find a way to use this, the new terminal built by the Chinese, even without the planes, the big bodies coming in to use there's no aviation bridge for them to use, the jet bridges for the passengers to pass. So like it's done in many other countries, we are going to do emergency procurement to buy the big buses. And so we are going to put them in buses and move them to where the planes they stop, the big planes stop, in an orderly fashion, both arrival and departure. So Nigerians can have some kind of comfort with this new facility.
And onto politics now. The People's Democratic Party, PDP, has been reacting to the FCT Minister, Mr. Nyesom Wike's comments on whether or not the party can reprimand him. The spokesperson of the PDP presidential campaign, Mr. Daniel Bwala, warns that if the minister continues with what he calls anti-party engagements, then the PDP will not hesitate to expel him. Mr. Bwala was speaking on our political program, Politics Today.
He's a stakeholder of the party. If you look at the constitution of the party, even when it talks about the body that is empowered by law to conduct primaries, even in the states, it is the National Working Committee. All these places he said he wrote the letter to are people you control. I mean, did you expect the chairman of his state, who didn't even work for us in the campaign, to say no to him or the governor or any other person, let him tell the world he wrote to the national body and let him show the letter that the national body asked him to go ahead. Secondly, you see, there is nothing wrong in a member of PDP working with Tinubu's government as long as that decision is reached by the party. You know, the party can say, let us sit and constitute a government of national unity and work. The party hasn't done that and is not the national chairman, neither is he the chairman board of trustees. I think everybody knows that he practically manipulated a lot of people, and then he had them walk in his path until he achieved what he has achieved, and they are now in the valley of decision and in the wilderness. Even in APC and in the PDP, there's a provision in the party's constitution that says where you have taken steps that are completely antithetical to the party's constitution, you stand expelled. Sees what he's doing, and then the party is quiet about it. It is not weakness. The party knows what it is doing. At the appropriate time, he will not only be suspended, he will be expelled. Take that one to the bag.
Well, Victor Matthias is here from our Abuja studio with more stories on the news at 10. Good evening, Victor. It's over to you now.
Thank you, Kaidi, and welcome to the nation's capital. Now, the Federal Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning has announced plans to update the national protection policy to accommodate emerging issues currently affecting Nigerians. This is coming from the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry, Mr. Nebulisa Anako, while inaugurating the Community of Practitioners Board in charge of the policy's implementation. Mr. Anako further stated that the policy will focus on alleviating poverty in the country.
In the period 2017 to 2020, we had the National Social Protection Policy, but this policy now elapsed in December of 2020, and this makes it necessary to do a new policy and to update that previous one to accommodate some emerging issues such as the COVID-19 pandemic, the emergence of new ministries, agencies, and other issues. Furthermore, the implementation plan and the robust monitoring and evaluation framework for this new social protection policy has already been developed. And to institutionalize the National Social Protection Policy, a draft bill will soon be subjected to validation by all the relevant stakeholders before finalizing it for further action. It's important for us to note that the National Social Protection Policy is structured along 4 key pillars, which are 1, social assistance, 2, social care, 3, social insurance, and 4, labor market interventions.
The Adamawa state government has received the buses it procured as part of efforts to ease movement for the residents of the state. The buses are part of palliative measures, which includes the purchase of grains and non-food items aimed at easing the effects of the removal of subsidy on petrol by the federal government.
Last week, the Adamawa State Acting Governor, Professor Kaletapwa Farauta, inaugurated a palliatives distribution committee with the Secretary to the State Government as its chairman. The chairman of the committee, shortly after its first meeting, addresses the media on some key decisions as presented. Meanwhile, the chairman of the Adamawa State chapter of the NLC, who's a member of the distribution committee, applauds the government's efforts.
We have had various types of palliatives, food and non-food items. And although there's been a lot of misinformation, miscommunication, I will again give you a current status of every single aspect of the palliatives, where we are and what we're expecting to do.
What is coming in might not be enough for the citizens, because you'll agree with me, people are actually hungry. And of course, it might not be enough, but of course, it is something, it has to start somewhere, and it has started.
They then proceed to the handing over of the luxurious buses. The acting governor, Professor Farauta, arrives at the venue to receive the vehicles on behalf of the people of the state. After getting the keys, she gets a feel of the vehicle's interior. Professor Faralta tells journalists that the governor is a promise keeper determined to improve the welfare of the people.
Today is one of the other days that we have seen that promise made is promise delivered. And on behalf of Adamawa State, we received these buses, and our prayer is that they will be used to reduce the hardship our people are going through because of some of the policies of the federal government, and the need to help our people get a cushioning effect.
A resident of Yola is excited about the introduction of the buses.
We learned he has a committee on ground that will soon be working on how to distribute palliative. They just distributed fertilizer, and our cars are already on ground. What can we say to this type of a governor? We have nothing to say than to say, Mungo Day.
The compressed natural gas vehicles have 100 passenger capacity each, with 54 seating and 46 standing positions. The buses are to operate within the city centre and will ease transportation, especially for the civil servants and the business people.
In Enugu State, the government will be hosting an investment and economic growth stakeholder roundtable, the first of its kind in the state, tomorrow, Friday, September the 1st. The Investment and Economic Growth Roundtable is in preparation for the first fully transactional Enugu State Diaspora and Investment Summit, which will be holding in April 2024. According to the Secretary to the Government, Professor Chidebere Unya, the State Governor, Peter Amba, is expected to share his vision for Enugu State and present the state's integrated sector-based productivity growth strategy at the roundtable.
What we're doing tomorrow is what His Excellency set out to be one of the trajectory towards encouraging investors to come in. So it's going to be a process. The benefit tomorrow is that when people leave, there will be a clear signaling to them that Enugu is ready for investment. Enugu is open for investment. It's going to be a mixed bag of value for Enugu State. So it won't just be one, but at the end of the day, we're looking for those that will help us prepare this project to bankability status. We're also going to be looking at those that will say, we think that this is sufficiently at the level we want to engage meaningfully. We're also looking at those that will say, we've been in this field for a long time. We are going to now come in aviation, in MRO, and come in and say, we're going to help with an MRO facility. We're going to come and help with a road corridor that helps improve our logistic corridors. Different people are going to come there. That's why we just didn't focus on development partners. We brought in a mixed bag of investors, potential investors, financiers, development partners, country representatives. They're all going to be in there. The World Bank, they're all going to be in there to discuss how Enugu State's investment opportunity will be catalyzed.
Now to company news. Mamado's August Women Meeting is back with its 4th edition. Mama Nigeria, a subsidiary of PZ Cousins, today provided women with a platform to better their lives through insightful conversations and panel sessions. The head of marketing, PZ Wilmar, Chioma Mbanugo, says their goal is to create a platform that would enable women from different professions and diverse backgrounds discuss, share experiences, encourage, support and push each other to overcome barriers and limitations.
Every year since 2020, Mamado Nigeria has given women across the country a platform to discuss topics that affect them. This year is no different, as women from all walks of life are here to create solutions to the many challenges that affect them, from family to business and to social equity.
This event celebrates the spirit of women who dare to live life beyond ordinary, who explore their new flavors, not only in their recipes in the kitchen, but beyond the kitchen and in their everyday journey.
What is the mindset? So very quickly, the mindset determines your behavior. It determines your action. It determines your results, your performance, your attitude. It determines if you want to decide to wake up early to come to an August meeting by Mama Jo. It determines how you want to look, how you feel like you should be addressed. It determines everything about your life, and it's the foundation for everything.
The meeting features a panel comprising distinguished women and allows for question and answer.
Take responsibility and stop blaming people.
Today is another day to start all over again with your finances, irrespective of where you have been and what you have done.
So even for exercise, for example, people keep asking me, how do you work, have 2 kids, have coach people and still find time to exercise? I'm not afraid to ask for help. Please ask for help.
Participants are also full of praises for Mamador.
I am particularly happy that Mamador Nigeria supports Nigerian women, and I want to say to more women to please embrace Mamador products.
Mamador is great. Mamador has women in their mind. That is what we're talking about, resetting our minds.
For the brand's marketing head, Mamador cooking oil is committed to impacting more lives.
We do have our cooking oil, 100% pure vegetable oil. We have our spread for bread, giving consumers options to deliciously nourishing meals. So the taste is important and the health is for us as a brand as well.
Mamador Nigeria, a subsidiary of PZ Wilmer, says the August meeting for women will continue to provide an opportunity for insightful gatherings where women can acquire adequate knowledge to explore and navigate through life.
And it's on that women empowerment note that we wrap it up from the nation's capital. But the news at 10 continues in Lagos with Kaede.
Well, thank you, Victor. One of Nigeria's foremost cement companies, BUA Cement PLC, has declared the sum of 2 naira 80 kobo as dividend for the 2022 financial year to its shareholders. The chairman of the company, Mr. Abdul Samad Rabiu, made this known in Abuja at the company's 7th annual general meeting.
It's the 7th annual general meeting of BUA Cement PLC, a leading producer of cement in Nigeria with production plants located in Lagos, Edo and Sokoto states. Members of the board of directors, the audit committee members and the shareholders have gathered for this annual ritual. According to last year's financial report, the company recorded a revenue increase of 40.3% to 361.9 billion naira compared to the 257.3 billion naira recorded in 2021. The report also states that the company's earnings per share also grew by 12% year-on-year to 2 naira 98 kobo from the 2 naira 66 kobo recorded in 2021.
So we can clearly see the company in our eyes.
The chairman of the company, Mr. Abdul Samad Rabiu, says the company presently has the capacity to produce 11 million tons of cement per annum and is working to expand the production capacity with the plants in Sokoto State and Ubu in Edo State.
We have 2 lines that are coming on stream by the end of the year. The Obu line 3 and Sokoto line 5, which will give us a combined capacity of 6 million tons. And then by the time we have those 2 lines, we'll be having about 70 million tons per annum. So what we want to do is to support the government, sit down, the minister, to see how we can bring down the price of cement once we have these 2 lines up and running by the end of the year.
The meeting goes into an interactive session and shareholders commended the management for running a profitable company.
This company made earnings of 2 naira 87 kobo and they are giving us 2 naira 80 kobo. It's the best that has happened to the capital market. And BUA Cement is going higher and higher because of the board and management focus to make sure they empower the shareholder.
We have an excellent performance this year. To the glory of God. This is a stepping stone and we'll be getting higher and higher bountiful results.
The management of BUA Cement is hoping that its latest effort will increase its production capacity to about 80% and remain a competitive market leader in Nigeria.
Dateline Energy Services Limited has entered into a partnership with the Naval Dockyard Limited for the construction of a 4,000 metric ton liquefied petroleum gas coastal transportation carrier barge. The execution of the project officially kicked off with the signing of an agreement between the management of the 2 companies in Lagos.
In what appears to be a significant milestone, stakeholders in the maritime and energy industry converge to kickstart the execution of a project that will transform the energy sector in Nigeria and in Africa, the construction of an LPG coastal gas transportation barge at the Naval Dockyard in Lagos. The Nigerian Navy is confident about the impact of the project on the economy.
It is envisaged that the project will stimulate capacity building and research and development in the energy transport sector, employment and job creation across the maritime, oil and gas ecosystem, as well as economic growth in allied fields across the value chain.
Investment partner Dateline Energy Services is investing in a venture that will close the gap within the gas processing, development and distribution space.
This barge would serve as a carrier, not only a carrier, but also a flotel to take LPG from production facilities to storage facilities and off-take facilities, as well as more or less shuttle between the bigger craft, as we currently have them today, taking the gases from smaller, from remote locations and going into the deeper coastal waterways.
To put it into context,
Project partner Darren Dignam provides more details and capacity of the proposed barge.
for every one barge that sells, 400 trucks come off the road. That's the impact it will have. So not only is it a safer way to transport it, it also means that obviously the road infrastructures are saved, but more importantly it means the CO2 emissions being emitted obviously are greatly reduced.
Away from talks, attention shifts to the main highlight of the event, which is the signing of a formal agreement between Dateline Energy Services Limited and Naval Dockyard Limited, signaling the takeoff of the project.
Another round of applause as history now has been made.
Part of what we are trying to achieve is to showcase the competence of the yard and to also let Nigerians know that there's in-country capacity to do most of the things that we do abroad.
Industry players are of the opinion that the execution of the project will inspire what can be done in Nigeria, a representation of what local content can deliver if encouraged.
Rear Admiral Hamza Kauji.
Well, Anu Audo is here with more business stories on the News at 10.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Kayode. Hello and welcome to Business News. The Nigerian Exchange Limited and the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry have agreed to partner on ways to improve advocacy efforts, listings, and capacity development for both entities and the broader economy. The Chief Executive Officer of NGX, Temi Popola, made this known at the closing ceremony to mark the 135th year anniversary of the LCCI. While highlighting the exchange's plan to leverage technology to engage millions of Nigerians in the market, the NGX chief also emphasized the potential for NGX and LCCI to work together to promote the advantages of listing the non-listed corporates. On his part, the president of LCCI, Michael Olawale Cole, commended the exchange for its achievements and expressed enthusiasm over their partnership. The Debt Management Office has sold treasury bills valued at 406.1 billion naira across its auctions for the month of July, and that's according to the FMDQ Exchange Financial Markets Monthly Report for the month of July. That report was released today. This represents 0.39%, and that's about 1.5 billion naira month-on-month increase in the value of T-bills sold across its auctions for the month of June, which stands at 404.1 billion naira. At the same time, that report shows there were no corporate bonds listed on FMDQ Exchange last month, and that's in contrast to 17.5 billion naira worth of corporate bonds, which were listed in the month of June. Meanwhile, the total outstanding value for corporate bonds remained unchanged at 1.7 trillion naira last month. The National Pension Commission, PENCOM, has directed all pension fund administrators, PFAs, to open branch offices in at least 2 states in each geopolitical zone of Nigeria. The directive, which is contained in a circular issued by PENCOM to all PFAs and custodians, explains that the move has become necessary in order to meet the increasing demand for pension service by the public. PENCOM also directed PFAs to open a branch office in any state where it has up to 10,000 funded retirement savings accounts, RSAs. Now let's head to Nigeria's stock market. It sustained the bullish performance today into the final trading day for the month of August. It posted 3.44% month-to-date growth and, of course, 1.4 trillion naira gain within the month. Let's hear the details from Inijon Mekwa.
Thank you so much, Anne. Welcome to the Stock Market Report. Well, after just one pullback, 1 day of negative trade, the bull is back. And so we see the all-share index is in the green, 0.16%. And yes, we're growing and building on our 66,548.99 market cap, also looking really good at 36.4 trillion naira. Now let's look at the gainers and losers for the day. NGX, yes, the same NGX, the market itself gained 10% today after it declared the dividends for the year. That attracted a lot of investors. Other gainers, Seplat right there and Transexpro. And then when we look at the red side, the flip side, there always has to be a flip side. Multiverse is leading that. NASCON, after days of gaining, after that announcement of Dangote Sugar, Dangote Rice, and NASCON coming together to make Dangote food, a lot of investors picked on it, but now it's time for profit taking, so it lost 9.81%. As well as Honeywell. Honeywell has been gaining for this, so it's just profit taking. We see that the activity chart is not looking good, it's looking red. That's because there's less volume of activity compared to the previous day, but doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. So it's a green market that we have, and we hope this is sustained. That's the Stock Market Report. Back to you, Anne.
Thank you for watching Business News Tonight. I'm Anne Nwawado. The rest of the news at 10 continues now with Kayode.
Well, thank you, Anne. More than 70 people have been killed in a fire at a building in Johannesburg, South Africa. A member of the Mayoral Committee for Safety and Security attributed the high death toll in the building to a lot of partitions and gates in between. Our South Africa correspondent, Innocent Samosa, has more on the disaster that befell Johannesburg today.
The scene here in Marshalltown is one of absolute devastation. Firefighters have been battling the flames for hours. The fire has been contained, but still smoldering. Eyewitnesses have described scenes of chaos and desperation as residents attempted to escape the fire.
I get here, I think it was around about quarter to two, and I could literally see people jumping off. And obviously there were already bodies that were on the floor, and the paramedics were already, luckily the paramedics were already here, and the fire engine was already here as well.
I think our response was quick because we, in the area of the inner city, we had vehicles which were already on standby, and then we managed to respond to incident.
Meanwhile, the death toll continues to rise. The cause of the fire is still unknown. Many families have been torn apart, and the community is left grappling the scale of this disaster.
The city has to follow up on these buildings, because they're in good structures, but then there's no one to manage, so people will take over.
Marshalltown resident Kenny Mutala describes how he managed to escape the blaze.
It was around 2 o'clock. We saw there was people that were working up, but there was a lot of commotion, people running up and down. So when I looked through the window, I saw there was smoke coming out through the building, and we tried to check outside what was going on, and there was a lot of commotion in the passage. There was people that were running up all over. They were looking for an exit because some of the exits were closed, and the actual fire escape was closed. So there was a lot of people, a lot of people smoke, people were suffocated. A lot of people died because of the smoke, because there was a lot of pressure at the gates. Some of the gates were closed.
The time I
I was there to go outside, I found too much people on the corridors. I failed to go that side because there was too much smoke, too much people, and we failed to open the gates. There's a gate inside there. So we just decided to go and jump on the window.
Officials are expressing their condolences and promising a thorough inquiry. However, no one is taking responsibility for this.
It's not just our problem as government. It's a collective problem because the people are occupying these buildings are our citizens. So if we cannot be considerate of the fact that our attempts are to also assist them in relocation and to also restore our city to its former glory.
Government is here, that's why we are here, and that's why we are here to understand what has happened, what needs to be done, and of course we're going to look internally inside the city for accountability of whether indeed it was truly the negligence of the city or it was the people really not heeding to the call of the city to do the right thing.
73 people confirmed dead. That number could still change. As investigations continues, our thoughts are with the victims and their families in this incredibly difficult time. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Innocent Simos, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, President Cyril Ramaphosa, in his first public comments on the Johannesburg blaze, has called it a great tragedy. Well, Simon PC has this and more in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. More than 70 people have died and over 50 have been injured after a fire in South Africa's city of Johannesburg. Eyewitnesses say onlookers waited for what seemed like an eternity for fire services as flames engulfed the building. Officials say it is unclear what sparked the fire at the city centre 5-storey building, which had been abandoned but was occupied by homeless people. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa described the incident as a great tragedy felt by families whose loved ones perished in this terrible manner.
This incident calls on all of us, from the emergency services and other entities of government, to reach out to survivors, to help restore people's physical, psychological well-being, and to offer all material help and assistance to the residents affected by this. And I do hope that the investigations into the fire will enable communities and authorities to prevent a repeat of such a tragedy.
More than 440,000 people are still without power after Storm Idalia, now a tropical storm, moves into Georgia. Here, strong winds shaking palm trees in Sarasota. 250,000 homes are without power in the area alone. A 100-year-old oak tree fell on the governor of Florida's mansion. Here, surveillance footage showing the moment a Florida home along the coastal town of Horseshoe Beach broke apart. Residents later returning to a scene of devastation.
The search and rescue operations have been ongoing from the moment that the storm passed in the hardest hit areas, and they've probably gone through about 70% of the areas that they need to be able to check for people that are in distress. And, so far all signs have been positive. There is, of course, a lot of debris to clean up, but we will get working with that with the local communities to make sure that the roads are cleared and people can go back to their lives.
At least 5 people have died after a train hit railway workers at high speeds close to a station in Italy. The workers, aged between 22 and 52, were replacing part of a track outside the northern city of Turin when they were killed. They had been working on the line between Turin and Milan when the empty passenger train went through Brandizzo station at a reported 160 kilometers per hour. The local mayor told Italian media an investigation was underway. Army officers who seized power in a coup in Gabon have named General Brice Oligui Nguema as the country's transitional leader. General Ngemi was earlier carried triumphantly through the streets of the capital, Libreville, by his troops. The deposed president, Ali Bongo, has appeared in a video at his home calling on friends all over the world to make a noise on his behalf. Mr. Bongo's overthrow ended his family's 55-year hold on power in the Central African state. Army officers appeared on TV in the early hours of Wednesday to say they had taken power. Thailand's former premier, Thaksin Shinawatra, has submitted a request for a royal pardon, his latest move in a long-running power struggle with the country's establishment. Thaksin, Thailand's most famous politician, made a dramatic homecoming last week after 15 years abroad, where he lived in self-exile to avoid prison. Just over a week ago, he greeted supporters before being moved to a prison to serve an 8-year sentence for abuse of power and conflicts of interest from his time in office. And finally, a blue supermoon, a rare spectacle not to be seen again until 2037, has lit up skies across the world. The supermoon is a phenomenon where the moon appears to be much bigger than usual as its orbital path is closer to Earth and can appear to be about 7% larger and brighter than a typical full moon. Here, the supermoon seen rising above Jerusalem city, and here at the famous pyramids in Egypt. Blue moons are the second full moon in a calendar month, but a blue supermoon is a rare phenomenon that will next be seen in 2032. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Thanks, Simon. And back home, it's not exciting time for Nigeria's Women Football League champions, the Delta Queens, who have failed to make it to the group phase of the CAF Women's Champions League. The Delta Queens lost to Ghana's Dempa Dakoa by a lone goal at the Wafu B qualifiers played at the Samuel Egbomudia Stadium in Benin City, as you can see on the screen. But outside our shores, Manchester City, Erling Haaland, and Spain's World Cup winner star Aitana Modrina had won the UEFA Men's and Women's Player of the Year. Meanwhile, continental action is set to return to the epicenter of club football as Manchester United will face Bayern Munich in Group A in this season's Champions League. Today's draw for the group stage also plays Paris Saint-Germain and Newcastle together in Group F, as you can see. And of course, holders Man City could hardly have asked for a kinder draw. You can look at it as a home run. RB Leipzig, Resta Belgrade and Young Boys all in that particular group. We also see Sevilla against Arsenal. They've not been at the Champions League since 2016. So this is a big one. They'll be playing against Sevilla, PSV and Lens on France. All right. 7-time Formula One World Cup world champion Lewis Hamilton has signed a new contract with Mercedes and will continue to partner compatriot George Russell in 2022 and 2025. No financial details were given, although media reports have suggested the deal could be worth £50 million a year for Hamilton.
I couldn't be happier to be extending with this team. We've had such an incredible journey together. I mean, Mercedes have supported me since I was 13, so such a long trip, and we still have unfinished business. So we are in this together. We've got a lot of work to do to get ourselves back to the front, but there's no place I would rather be.
Now the Champions League is back. Kayode is back to you.
Well, thank you, Jeff. It's game, set and match on the news at 10. And the main news again. A senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Femi Falana, today warned political elites to tackle surging poverty in the country to stave off elements of instability at a symposium on the state of the economy by the Nigeria Labour Congress. And death toll rose to 74, with 50 others injured after a fire disaster in South Africa's city of Johannesburg. That's the news at 10 for tonight, everyone. Thank you for watching. I am Kayode Kikulu. Good night.